Hello everyone and welcome to our channel, and today I'll be reading a Muichiro Tokito by me. So let's get into it. The first time you met, it was an unintentional injury. A silly one perhaps, one that you could have totally avoided. And you ended up in your office because he was a fool. And you lectured him, not knowing his origin, who he was or what he did, or why he would have such a severe injury, for seemingly no reason at all. And he looked at you with a weird look in his eyes. That mysterious black-haired man, the ends of his hair a soft cyan. He plagued you, staying on top of your mind for the rest of the week. And little did you know, you were not the only one being bothered this week, because he was thinking of you too. Perhaps too much. And to him, it all seemed so odd, because he's never thought about someone in his mind for so long. No one has ever lingered like you did. No one ever felt special to him in that way, that he felt like you wanted to seek them out again. But that's how he knew. He had to see you. He had to do something about this, because he couldn't just go on without seeing you right now. It was a need, not a want, but a very necessary need. That's how you see him 7 days later, in your office, with an injured arm. It's not as bad as last time, but you can't help but roll your eyes. After all, that's a little bit too much for someone. He's got to be more careful. Muichiro-san, I just want to tell you, you need to be more careful. You got injured twice in the span of a week. Do you know how dangerous that is? Thankfully, they're not bad injuries, and I've been able to fix them, but if they weren't, this could have been bad. You told him, as you disinfected the wound and began to bandage it up, but he looked at you, a soft smile on his face. And you know what? I think that's fine. Huh? What do you mean? It's not fine. Muichiro-san, are you okay? You ask him, worried to his mental state, when he suddenly realizes that he's let those words out. What he meant, though, in his own head, that it's time for him to get injured, if it means he will get to see you again. He barely even felt the pain, and it all felt so worthwhile once he walked into your office to see your face and your eyes, and your wonderful yet reluctant smile. Oh, it was nothing. I assure you, you've got nothing to worry about. Are you really sure about that, Muichiro-san? And he nods. And that's when you realize you're not getting much out of him, and you have to take him at his word. That's exactly why, when you see him a third time, you definitely feel like something is weird. And it was only after 2 days that you saw him as well. You stood up, scowling at him. Muichiro-san, I mean this in the kindest way possible. And in the nicest way, I do not ever want to see you again in my office. Really, this is worrying. What do you even do? What's your job? How do you get injured so much? You ask him, pouring your brows at him, and you can't help but let out a soft laugh. He was so nervous, and yet you were too endearing for him to hold back. The way you were so concerned about a mere stranger. Sure, he was your patient, and you've treated him 3 times now, but he was still just a random stranger amongst the many that you would treat daily. And for some inexplicable reason, you had a strange amount of concern for him. Or at least that's what he thinks. And he can't help but feel like there are too many words bubbling up in his throat. And before you could even process them, he lets them out. If you don't want to see me in your office, how about a date? And the two of you freeze. Him, because he never really thought he would let those words out. They were just a thought in his head, meant to remain a thought, not to be words said to you, for you to hear and respond to. Meanwhile, you're freaking out, because the clues added up. He did this because he wanted to see you. Maybe he was shy, maybe he thought this was a good idea, but those injuries, those repeated ones, he'd done that for himself over and over, just because he wanted to be in your presence. And that beautiful man that you've kept on treating, he wanted more than to be just your patient. And you find yourself frozen, fidgeting for a moment or two, before you let out a sigh of relief. You don't know how much I was so worried about you. I thought you were hurting yourself or something, Major-san. You let out a soft giggle, shaking your head. Well, if that stops you from visiting my office so frequently, then I guess it's not so bad. And he smiles, blushing because he never thought this would work out. Perhaps he was better at this than he thought, or maybe you were just kinder than he deserved. But either way, it worked out. And that's all that mattered. He got up and held your hand in his own, squeezing it gently. And you could only squeeze back, your heart caught in your throat, wanting to be with him in more ways than one. He was beautiful. His voice was calming. Everything about him, so special and so different. And you never knew it could ever be more than what you had. But right now, looking into his eyes full of mirth and mischief, you could tell that the two of you were bound to have a lot of things to do together. And the next date won't be the last. It would certainly be the start of many more to come.